Well, we got another Tim Burton movie, and today it's Corpse Bride, which I would rate like a 3 out of 10. This is really a movie where imagination dies before the actual characters do. You want to see a sucky movie, then Corpse Bride is your answer. As with all the Tim Burton movies, visually pretty good, gorgeous even, for sure. But that stop motion. It is a work of art, and Tim Burton does that well. But that's basically where it all stops. It's also what makes this film so extremely frustrating. This is a movie where you have all these gorgeous visuals, but everything is just wasted. That is what this movie is. Visually gorgeous, but beauty wasted. Let's put it like that. Now, what is this movie about? Well, on paper, we get a pretty interesting idea. We have a groom who is very shy, who is going to marry, and well, let's start off with the groom, who is called Victor, and he's going to marry Victoria. And he gets somewhat scared, or he messes up the vows, and he goes into the forest, and what happens is somehow he accidentally marries a corpse named Emily, and he gets dragged into the land of the dead. Now, that is definitely an awesome premise with lots of potential for, you know, dark humor, really dark twists, some tragedy mixed in, and from the looks of it, some gothic romance going on. But this movie, it's about as lively as a corpse. There's no spark in this movie whatsoever. I mean, the only thing that I would say is worth praising, even barely, is the stop motion work. And the designs, they look stylish, they look detailed, and they have definitely that Tim Burton trademark going on, the gothic aesthetic. And I'm definitely not a fan of Tim Burton, but I have to watch these movies. I actually want to see if I actually get a good movie from Tim Burton for once. And this one also very disappointing. The characters, they move fluidly. The sets look somewhat imaginative, and I would even say that the textures on screen, they kind of pop. So everything is very rich in detail, striking in terms of art, and the atmosphere. It's pretty good visually, and the mood. There are moments where the mood definitely works, where the tone of the movie works. The doom and gloom feels somewhat whimsical. That's what you want from a movie like this. And every now and again, the dead people or the dead, they seem somewhat charming. And yeah, that's pretty much where this movie stops being good, if you can call it good. These are the only positives that I can find in this movie. Now, where does this movie really fall apart? And it does fall apart very fast. Well, first of all, it's the story that feels half alive. I mean, the story idea is not bad. It's actually a very cool premise. But the way they handle the story is it's really boring. They don't do a very good job. The premise goes nowhere. What should have been something very twisted, a love triangle, because Victor, he has to choose between Emily, the corpse he accidentally married, and Victoria, the woman that he is supposed to marry, the woman who is actually alive. So we should have gotten a twisted love triangle, but it dissolves or devolves into something very soulless, very thin, very underdeveloped. And this movie, it just lacks emotional depth or any drive, any narrative drive. So yeah, the story it wasn't very good, not at all. And then one of the other problems I had with the movie was the lifelessness of the characters. Victor, who is voiced by Johnny Depp, he's nervous, he's uninteresting, but he's the protagonist of the movie. I mean, he stumbles, he mumbles, he doesn't make any decision whatsoever, or at least none of the decisions that he makes feel earned to a degree. I mean, he's just a very sad character. And I don't know why he is the protagonist. And then we have Emily, who is the corpse bride, because, that's what the movie is called, of course. And she is probably the only interesting bit in this movie, the only interesting character, somewhat. I, you know, I don't know, kinda. She kinda is somewhat interesting. But the rest of the characters, they're all very bland in terms of personality. But even Emily, she's written so inconsistently that you just stop caring. You don't care about Emily, you don't care about Victoria, you don't care about Victor. The characters are very underwritten. They lack emotional connection, despite some strong voice performances, I would say. So basically, we get a love triangle that just isn't. The central conflict, living bride versus the dead bride. Who is Victor going to choose? It should have been something filled with moral tension, heartbreak, but instead it's handled super poorly. There's no passion. Oh my god, there's no chemistry. And there's absolutely no freaking reason to care who ends up with whom. I couldn't care about Emily, didn't care about Victoria, and for sure didn't give a rat's ass about what happened to Victor. And when you watch a movie, you want to care about the characters in the movie. Characters, what they do drives the story, it drives everything forward. And this movie just doesn't do that. And yeah, we have the music or whatever the hell that was. The music, it sounds all very much the same. Everything just blends into the next. All the songs are very dull. There's no emotion, no. It all feels very monotonous. And I would say the soundtrack, the songs, the music, it's super weak in this movie, absolutely weak. So for me, I would say that this movie, Corpse Bride, it looks incredible, sure, but it feels completely dead inside. It's a movie that mistakes quirky visuals for storytelling, sadness for depth, and puppets for people. I mean, yeah, I can admire the craftsmanship. I understand, but that's not enough to have a good movie. There's nothing underneath. There's no energy, no spark, no life. I mean, the animation team definitely did one hell of a job, but the script writers, not so much. So, all in all, I think this movie is a movie that you shouldn't watch. It's a very bad movie, and I would rate it a 3 out of 10, maybe even a 2 out of 10 because of how crappy it really is. There's nothing going on here. But yeah, what do I know about movies? I just watch them and tell you what I think. So I hope this review was helpful, and let me know what you think of this movie, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.